And we are live.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. How are you doing tonight? We are so grateful that you decided to join us tonight and to make this a good show. So don't forget, we always want discussions and conversations to happen. Um, I'm Fatmata, and with me is
JoJo Barron, how you doing?
fantastic. And we will continue our conversations this month, Women's History Month, what JoJo calls,
Black Women's History Month.
there you go.
That's what we're calling it around here. Trademark, TM.
So for JoJo, it's Black Women History Month.
That's right.
So we will be discussing issues dealing with Black women. Not that it's only going to be this month, but we're focusing on Black women for this month. And today's topic is going to be the effect of the pandemic on Black women. And then we are going to touch a little bit on anti-Blackness as it relates to the US and globally, especially in light of the little revelations, unsurprising revelations that we had in reference to the royal family and Meghan Markle. So, but before we get started, we want to take a few moments of silence to remember and honor those we have lost during this pandemic. And so if you can just give us a few seconds of your time and of silence, it'd be great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, JoJo.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you doing today, madam?
I'm feeling a little blue. Actually, no, I'm pretty good today. Pretty good today. I don't know if you heard, but we got a little COVID relief package passed today. So
just a little bit.
Just a
Just a little.
little, just a little package. So that's pretty exciting. And in
Yeah.
honor of that, I've worn my other Kamala Harris campaign shirt. I actually lost it. I don't know where I put it. And I've been searching for it literally since like October. And I finally found it today. And I
Just
just
in
out of the
time.
spur of the moment decided to color my hair blue. So Democrats are blue. Kamala Harris is, our VP. So I
Hair
decided,
looks great.
oh, thank you.
Do you like the way it turned out?
Say that.
Did you like the way it turned out?
I mean, I'm gonna try it again. Definitely will try it again. I got a little idea for the next time, but yeah, I think this turned out okay. You should try it, Fatma. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
you're so
Sure.
conservative.
Sure.
It'll
Yeah,
never happen. I know.
I am the conservative one most of the time in most relationships.
It's all good.
It's all
All
good.
have our rule, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So so today we want to talk a little bit about the effect of COVID on Black women in this country. And we, unfortunately, as usual, right? We're affected the most.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we know that historically, Black women have been the ones who have been most negatively affected in the workplace and health wise, things of that nature of female mortality rate in childbirth is not, it's not great. And so we will be having that conversation in more in depth later on a different show. Today, we want to talk a little bit about the economic impact on Black women and what is causing it, and how some of this may be addressed, and what we still need to do as a people to address these issues. So we did a little bit of our own, mini research because we're not experts, but we do live in Black women's bodies, right, Joe?
So we know firsthand a little bit about the impact of, I mean, just forget about COVID for a second. Before COVID, things were not great for us. Impacts, health disparities, healthcare disparities, income disparities, promotion disparities, all the disparities that you can think of impacted Black women the worst. And so with COVID now on the table, um, it's gotten even worse. So, I mean, what research did you see, Fatmata? What are some of the things that you saw
Okay,
that really
so
stood out?
what I found out was that about 52% of Black women reported that they were the only of their gender or their race at work. They actually more likely to feel uncomfortable, um, and in just coming as themselves. So and that even goes to I think, like natural hair, right?
Yeah.
So there's this issue of going to work as your whole self, as your natural self, and what that entails and what that means. And that's why we have all these legislations going on around some parts of the country about the Crown Act. We
Hmm.
passed here in the county. I was honored enough to actually work on that bill here in the county in Councilman Joanda's office. So that was a big thing, especially as a woman that's locked, right? So there are different parts of the country that where people are putting that in place, and that of course affects how Black women go to work and how they feel when they go to work. So that's part
That's
of
a whole live we could have all separate. My
uh,
goodness, a whole show just on that.
so much. And 42% of Black women feel uncomfortable sharing their thoughts about racial inequity. And about 22% of them feel like they cannot talk about the impact of what's happening today, on their lives as Black women. And we just saw this on the interview with um,
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle, right? Um, Speaking out about what she felt
Hmm.
and the effect it had on her. We will get to her later in the interview on what, the anti-Blackness issues, but I wanted to bring her up to talk about the responses to
Clash.
her saying that. And people, and I did a post on my personal page about that. So you go to these group these groups where you have the white women allies who were there when we were working together to get the vote out and so on and so forth. And now you have this conversation, and Black women are supporting Megan and so on, and then but the conversation's coming out, it is so negative. It's like, she's so privileged. What is her problem? Why is she even complaining? Those kind of things. She's so fake and so on and so forth. And these, I know somebody who says she's not a Black woman. She's a Muslim sister who actually left one of these groups, or a few of these groups, because the conversation, she couldn't even handle it. So she was like, she just left.
The
Um,
allyship is limited if we're honest with ourselves. Um, and it's limited to what box they believe that they can put us in,
mhm,
where they are comfortable with us. And when they believe we've stepped outside of that box and gone beyond what they're comfortable, um, you know,
mhm,
experiencing with us, then the allyship goes out the window, and
mhm,
suddenly their true selves come forward. And when I say that, I mean white people in general. I mean, not just white women, but white people in general. There's a limit to their allyship, and it becomes most apparent in situations like Meghan Markle and the interview on Sunday. But we're going to talk about that later.
mhm. So the reports, when I looking at that, all I could think was, Yeah, Meghan Markle. So you come out and you put yourself out there and you say, I was at the point where I wanted to die. I
Yeah.
wanted to die, right? And for all intents and purposes, we're in a society that celebrates and encourages people who are brave enough to come out and say these things.
Mhm.
And we elevate celebrities and other people as an example of what you can do, and not just for yourself, but the impact you can have on others who may be in the same position. And it was just amazing to me that that was not being applied to her.
Why do you think that was, especially in this situation? I guess
Think
we're going to talk about her now.
Yeah, we'll talk about her later, but that goes to the uncomfortable feeling of being able to. That's just an example of what I found in Forbes, right? Of the report that talks about how uncomfortable Black women feel. To
Mm-hmm.
talk about these things and express how things affect them,
Mm-hmm.
because Exhibit A, the response is not always positive, right?
Right, right.
Um, and
And
there's
microaggressions in the workplace, they're hard to place, you know? You know it when you feel it, but from the outside and describing it to someone else, they're going to think to themselves, that's nothing. But when that nothing happens and is needling you, for 39 hours of the 40 hours that you work in a particular place in a week, and it's happening to nobody else in the office but the Black folks,
Mhm.
it's difficult for other people to understand.
Yep. And actually that's part of the report that said that Black women are um, 2.5 times more likely to have somebody die
Hmm.
from COVID, of a loved one, but yet they're 1.5 times more likely to feel uncomfortable
Hmm.
talking about that or sharing that grief, you know, and the microaggression that you talk about,
Hmm.
you know.
How often have you and I both been in a situation, Fatmata, where we're just minding our own business and someone walks up to us and says, smile, you know? Or how often does that happen even in the workplace?
Mhm.
Why are you not more friendly? Why are you not talking to more people? And then having that held against us. Well, part of that is because we're not comfortable opening up to people that we work with because
Mhm.
of microaggressions that take place. So why would I drop my guard around folks who I know don't mean well for me?
Mhm.
And
Remember, remember what happened in law school
to,
with the
which one? Which
I know,
situation?
right? Well, this one, because we're talking colleagues, right? So this is law school, but there were colleagues.
Right.
The stone tables.
Oh, goodness gracious. My goodness. The stone tables, that still haunts me. Still haunts me to this day. But go ahead and tell the story of the stone tables.
So we went to University of Florida Law School. So this is Florida.
Hmm.
So a lot of times the weather's pretty nice most year around, certain times of the year it gets chilly, but so we have what you call stone tables. So these are they look like benches, like you have in a park, but it's made out of stone, not wood. So we sit there a lot. There are not many of us who are Black in the school to begin with, but
Probably
we
every Black law student found their way during lunchtime.
to go to that stone table and we sit there, we congregate, we eat, we talk, we mess around, we just, you
Have
know,
enjoyed ourselves
have
together.
fun. Have fun. Now, mind you, behind us, there's this whole other space that's huge that people hang out, and mainly not us, right? And
Mhm.
but the white students were so bothered.
And don't forget, there were other stone tables
Mhm.
that were to the left of us. There were stone tables on the other side of the rotunda. There was the entire rotunda. There was the breezeway. There was the cafeteria. There was I mean, they basically had the whole campus.
And what happened, Joe? What happened, Joe?
Well, we intimidated people. We wouldn't allow them to sit at the one stone table that maybe 20 or 30 students at a time, because, flowing in and out, not all at once, but flowing in and out. We took up one table, but we were intimidating. we scared them. They were afraid to come near us, whatever excuses they had that basically indicated that we were a threat to them. At University of Florida, we won't even tell you other stories right now on this live about stuff that's happened with those students during that time period, but we were the threat because we chose one table to congregate at during our lunch period and enjoy ourselves as a group amongst people who we were comfortable with. And
Mhm.
then we had to disperse at the end of that 1 or 2 hour period and go back out amongst them and not be our true selves anymore and not be our whole selves, just as we're discussing today. But students actually went to the administration and complained that Black students intimidated them for sitting at one table.
And I forgot, remember, I've forgotten all about this. Joe had to remind me. So, this was over 20 years ago.
Girl,
So,
I don't forget.
JoJo does not forget anything.
No, I am the official grudge holder between Fatmata and I. If there is a grudge she needs to hold, just girl, just call me. I'll hold it for you happily. It's what I do.
She just reminded me about it recently, and I was just like, oh my goodness. I mean, like, so it's the reason I brought it up is that it follows, right? So this is law school. This is a step away from us coming into the professional world. So imagine these same students going into the workforce and are going to a law firm. What do you think they're going to do as professional people when people who look like us are quote unquote in their space? It follows, right? Because it starts early. So I brought that up basically to have this conversation that these discussions that people are having now about what's happening with women, especially Black women in the workplace, it didn't just start in the workplace, it's been happening and it just continued onto the workplace. The difference now is that it's affecting their pocketbook because it's affecting their state of mind at work, and some may not be able to handle it and they leave the workplace, right? And so now we are where we are. So Black women are much more likely to leave their work during this pandemic than any other racial group, especially Black women and Latinx women, because of course they're the teachers, they're the frontline workers, they're the nurses, they're these people who are right there and they cannot work from home.
Yeah.
And but you know what I found out that was interesting in the Forbes report? Also women in higher positions, like CEOs, like women in more executive positions, because of the time it takes to be an executive. And all of a sudden the children are home, and you as the woman are expected to be the one to take care of the children. So now, how do you juggle being an executive in a senior position and family when family is not constant? There's no period in time when your kids are at practice or at school. And women
didn't make these children by themselves, but yet are expected to take on the brunt of the child rearing, the household responsibilities, and bring in half the money to run the household. At what point are we talking about equity in the home and in the work? We need to have, I'm not saying, have Mr. Mom or whatever you want to call it, that movie from the 80s, but I am saying that if women are we're going to have these expectation of women, going out into the workforce and bringing home the bacon right along with their husbands, then we need husbands and male spouses or male companions in the homes to also take on a lot more of the brunt of the responsibility from home or at home, particularly now, because so many of us who are professionals are working from home and have the luxury of doing that. But it seems as though women are not getting more assistance in the household duties.
Yeah.
You know, the men are home more, but aren't working, you know, are not helping more. So, I mean, what are we going to do here? How are we going to make this more equitable for everybody? You know?
That is the question, right? So it goes in line, I guess, in trying to get these companies to address the microaggressions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how that would work, right? Because um, it is microaggression.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily blatant in your
Mm-hmm.
face. And it's something that has, that you really have to work and figure out how you can explain that. Make it so that when, like, my sister does remote, but it's so busy that it doesn't matter. Like, her daughter would come in the room and it's like she's she's busy back to back, so she's home, but it's it's still hard,
The
right?
responsibilities have actually increased for a lot of women because not only are they working from home, but a lot of school districts around the country have shut down and are having kids doing Zoom school or remote schooling.
Mhm.
So moms are taking on the additional responsibility of being the teacher's aide of sorts, where before at least moms got the a little help from sending them off to school, and I'll see you in about 8 or 9 hours,
Mhm.
and they could do their work and be bothered at work in peace. But now we have the lovely children at home who need our help, need our attention. Um, Things don't stop for them just because school is now remote, and now it's even worse. They need even more attention
Mhm.
and more guidance because all of this is new for all of us.
Everybody, everybody, everybody. So we know that Black women have had the hardest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we just wanted to have a little bit of discussion, um, to make sure that we kind of know what's happening, um, and hopefully be able to target some of the issues. And so, some of the solutions that have been discussed, basically, besides the microaggression, is putting forth a real effort to promote Black women, to
Yeah.
make them feel more comfortable in their workplace, as a business, right?
I,
Because it doesn't happen. It
you
doesn't
know,
happen.
these employers have to first recognize it's a problem, and that's where our biggest obstacle is. Do they believe there is an issue?
Mhm.
And where they don't believe there's an issue, where microaggression to them is just, oh, maybe you're not fitting into the corporate culture, maybe it's you, where it's for them, it's something that the onus is on us to fix and not on them to fix. Um, it's going to be hard to find a solution. We'll be hard pressed to find these answers, and we often are in the boardrooms and in leadership positions in these companies only to have our not only to not be respected, to have our opinions not respected, to not be listened to, really maybe to be the token, to check off that diversity block, and they intend on doing their own thing regardless of who's in the room and what ideas can be brought to the table from this person. So we have a huge issue of employers. Do you have a diversity issue? Have you identified that you have a diversity issue? Have you identified that race matters, that microaggressions are a thing? If they haven't done that, we've got a bigger problem on our hands. We can't even go forward.
And just so to give you guys a number, there was a labor statistics report that says nearly 2.4 million women as a whole have left the workforce since last February in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that a huge percentage of that, majority of percentage of that, is Black women.
Mm-hmm. Because as usual, things impact us worse than any other group. And this is no different.
It's
No
no,
different at all.
no different. So we are in a place where when this whole thing is over, there needs to be a proactive process of trying to bring these women back into the workforce. We already know how difficult it is, right? We already know about the experiments and the resumes being sent with a Black name or Black sounding name,
Yeah.
And what the result of whether you get a phone call for an interview or not, as opposed to a white sounding name or Anglo sounding name. And what happens, we already know that that was happening before.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
now we have even more Black women out of the workforce. So when you put those two together, it looks really hard coming,
The numbers are bad.
Yeah, the recovery for Black people, for Black women, looks really bad. It looks very steep unless we put proactive things in place, a process in place where we are targeting Black women in the job market, where companies, especially companies who during the 2020 election cycle were all gung-ho about being more diverse and paying attention to more racial diversity and equity, and especially those, we need to hold them accountable. They made these statements, so now it's time for them to do it, because when this is over, there's going to be a lot of work to be done. A lot of work. So yeah.
And as you say that, my EEO investigator hat immediately went on, and I thought to myself, I can see the investigations coming my way saying that a white woman or a white man was discriminated against because they favored a Black man or Black woman for this particular job, or and the impact, regardless of impact overall of the loss of the jobs and COVID on those communities. They're going to look and say, well, me individually, I was harmed in this scenario, and so I was discriminated against. And I can just see the lawsuits coming. I can see the investigations coming. And that's what employers are also going to deal with. They're going to look at the cost benefit analysis of doing quote unquote what right wingers call set asides, and decide, is it worth the headache? And 9 times out of 10, they've been deciding over, at least over the last 20 years, that the headache just isn't worth it anymore. And so that's why we're seeing a decrease in what we call affirmative action, and these quote unquote set asides, and governmental agencies just not really focusing on people in those communities as much, and trying to look at it from a more economic equity stance versus specifically race and the intersection of race and gender. But that's problematic in and of itself, because whenever we look at strictly economics, who benefits the most? Even if we look at gender without looking at race, who benefits the most from those particular types of programs? And it's not folks that look like us. It's not us. And we are the ones who probably were contemplated when these programs were put together. We're the ones who were probably the intended targets, but we're not the ones benefiting the most, as and that's unfortunate. I'm curious to see what this is all gonna look like at the end of this pandemic, or on the other side of this, because the pandemic, I don't know what that's gonna look like, if there's gonna be an end, or if we're just gonna have a new world. But for sure, when we get to the other side of that, and we start looking at what we're gonna do, and and where everyone has landed, what are the solutions that are going to be put forward? I mean, I would love to be a part of the solution oriented, let's figure out how to get things working side of this, because we've talked a lot about what the problem is. And I think we all know what the problems are. And I'm tired of talking about the problems. And I want to see more solutions coming from us, filtering it to our allies for them to distribute, because no one's listening to us. The reality, no one listens to us.
Mhm.
What are the solutions when we get to the other side of this?
Right. And that's, part of the solution is to hold companies accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those who said they want to do what they say they want to do, right? Address racial diversity, gender, in their workplace. I really listen to women when they talk about these microaggressions,
Mm-hmm.
and the same way we so often talk about believe the woman when we talk about these sexual harassment issues.
There's a caveat, there's
But
always a
yet,
caveat.
no, but yet, when a Black woman says it,
Mm-hmm. Believe women except if they're Black seems to be what the true motto is.
there's something
But
else.
with sexual harassment, I don't know if we still are yet at a place where we believe women, but certainly believe women
See,
except if they're Black.
I'm not even saying that we believe, but we say it a lot.
Yes, yes, yes,
We hashtag it a lot.
yes, we do.
We do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But only for certain people.
Yes,
So
yes.
most of the time. So, but
The
that has
benefit of the doubt is reserved not for us.
so that has to be addressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that have to be confronted and talked about and addressed so that things can get better. So those are part of the solutions, just a small
Mm-hmm.
discussion of what we can do to make things better and move further, and be progressive, right? And address these negative experiences that Black women go through.
Mm-hmm.
And we, as a whole, obviously, women have a difficult time.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but Black women in particular, and women of color in particular, we know.
Let me say it a little more broadly. All women matter, but today, we are talking about Black women mattering.
And it's not just on today, it's Black diaspora voices. That's what we talk
Yeah,
about. We're elevating Black women and Black women issues, especially this month of March.
right.
So that's just, that's the reality. That's what the page is, right? And that's what the discussion is. Um, so I think to address it, you need to bring Black women to the table as you're having a conversation on how to address the issues that pertain to Black women. So you cannot have a table without a Black woman there to talk about how to fix the problem that affects them.
Mm-hmm.
That's priority number one.
Number one.
Priority number one. Because how do you decide what is good for me without me there?
But also, number two is when we say something is happening and this is our experience, believe us. I mean, the microaggressions, they are micro, but they are also aggressions. And aggressions, any size is bad, but particularly those micro ones, they needle at you every day, every hour of the day. And when it is 40 hours a week that we have to spend or more, because a lot of us do more than 40 hours in our job, when it is those times that we're spending at our work, the majority of the time in those buildings or on those Zooms or doing the work, and we have to spend that time anxious, filled with anxiety because of people's impressions of us. We have to believe those stories and believe those things when a Black woman comes to you and says, this has been my experience.
Mhm.
um, I mean, and outside of that, if we're not having those discussions, I don't know how we lead to any and believe the words coming out of Black women's mouth. I don't know how we get to solutions.
Well, I think even if we're not saying believe right off the bat, don't discredit it,
Mm-hmm.
and don't, at a minimum, don't don't allow your first instinct to be, oh, it can't be true.
Yeah.
Oh, that couldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
You must have gotten it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you read him wrong.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Like, listen to listen to me and take the proper steps to do your investigation and find out. don't try to tell me that I may have felt wrong. Maybe I was wrong, right? So that is a major step. And that takes us to our next topic. Um, Anti-Blackness. We have a prevalent of it here in the good old US of A. But as I've said to many people, it's global and it's in every community. But today we're not going to talk about the individual communities. That is another topic for another day in a different setting with other people. Today, we want to talk generally and globally about what anti-Blackness really means, right? Because we talk about racism a lot. We do. We talk about racism a lot.
Absolutely.
But we don't really relate it to anti-Blackness. Because that's a little bit of a different animal. And it sort of, it became this national thing now, and nobody's calling it that. After the interview with Harry and Meghan, no one is really talking about that, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask someone, well, how dark is your child going to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. That is a mess.
That is anti-Blackness, my people.
Yeah.
That's what that is. You already knew that she is half Black.
Mm-hmm.
You already know she's half Black.
And the other half of her is white.
You know this already. So it's not that you will be surprised that the child that she's going to produce will have Black blood.
Mm-hmm.
Your concern is the shade. How dark is the child or any of the children?
I mean, let me find that picture. Let me tell you what happened. I got into a bit of a fight. I wouldn't say a fight, but a little tiff on Facebook the other day. Someone had the audacity to say that, and who knows, maybe y'all will agree with this person, that Meghan and Harry's child will be racially profiled because of his appearance. And I said to myself, are you out of your mind? Do you see what this child looks like? I mean, I'm looking at a picture of him at the time, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't even see any Black features in him at all. Not that it matters one way or the other, but we are so committed ourselves to this idea that one drop of Black blood in him is also going to give him all these negative outcomes in his life, that we engage in the anti-Blackness. And I could just see it through this conversation. I'm thinking to myself, lady, this child is going to have all the characteristics of someone who is far removed from his African heritage. And I don't care about that one way or the other, but don't put this thing that affects us, that affects people that look like me and you, on this child as something that's going to, negatively affect him. It's not going to. But I'm going off on a tangent to say that this idea of anti-Blackness, I mean, it's rearing its ugly head in the course of this discussion, particularly with Meghan and Harry, and their child and everything that they're going through. And I'm kind of glad these discussions are happening. Is Meghan Black or white or whatever? Has she identified as such? I don't know. I'm not going to answer any of those. But what I do know is that the effects that her going into that family, in spite of her having this quote unquote royal lineage that allowed her to marry in the first place, because they actually have to do a bloodline test to see if there's any royalty in your lineage to be able to marry Harry. And it was there through her father's side, which
Mhm.
allowed this to happen. And they still damn near drove her crazy. In
Wow,
all that.
I did not know that part.
Yes, they go through. I mean, Harry and her would not have gotten past, the hello, how you doing phase if he didn't say, you know what, I like you. This is going well. I think I want more than just a little date here and there. Let's check your heritage. And they did, and sure enough, they found some random, lord or duke or whatever in the father's lineage, because if it was in the mother's, we know how that would have went down. But it was in the father's lineage, so that's why they were able to marry. And I'll look for that article and I'll share it in the group a little later. But in spite of that, she has the royal blood. She literally has the royal blood that she needed to marry Harry. But still, they decided to strip them of titles that would have been, given to Archie later on. Apparently, a couple weeks ago or last week, they stripped them of titles, and Harry, the little boy Archie, now can't have his little princely title. I don't know. I don't care. The bottom line is this whole discussion of Meghan Markle and Harry and the babies that, she's pregnant with, or baby she is pregnant with, all of that has brought up a discussion that I guess, brings anti-Blackness to the forefront right now.
And it needed to happen
It
because
needed to.
we live in a world where that issue is never really discussed.
Mm-mm.
It's in passing, right?
And
Like,
it's anti-Blackness that it's something that we live with as well. When we
yes,
say things like, oh my God, how dark, like,
yeah, we talk about colorism all the time, right?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Colorism is part of anti-Blackness that we
it's all part
experience.
of it. The what do they call it? The brown bag test.
Yes, the paper bag test that, hey, it happened. I'll use me as an example for just a quick second. There are folks who will look at me and say, you have pretty hair. I am uncomfortable with that, but I understand what you're trying to say. And guess what, Fatmata, your hair is beautiful. Love it. I've been saying for the last 20 years now, why didn't I lock my hair? Could have been long and locked right along with you. But the bottom line is we have this thing even within ourselves where the closer we are to our roots and who we are originally as Black folk, let's say untainted, the less we regard it as beautiful, the more we have to work to regard it as okay. And it really needs to start with us. We need to really accept that all of it is beautiful. Loose naturals, lock naturals, whatever, you are on the hair scale from 1A to 4Z, as in zebra. Listen, it's all beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, we don't. And when we have that Crown Act discussion, we'll get more into it. But there are just certain things, even within our own community, we have to recognize is anti-Black, and we have to kill it. We have to kill those discussions. We have to not kill those discussions, but recognize the problematic nature of those discussions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I wanted us just to touch in a little bit, right? And just for people to start having that awareness that, because all the headlines kept talking about the racism within the royal family, and might be there, I'm sure, whatever, but a huge part of it is just it's anti-Blackness.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Because it's not like if they didn't know she was half Black, they knew.
It was probably an issue, though.
I'm sure it was, but
Harry
that's
caught hell.
I'm sure. I'm
You know
sure.
he did. He caught hell.
I'm sure. But it feels like a part of them is that fine, she's half Black, but she doesn't look totally Black. I'm sure if she leaves her natural hair, if she doesn't flat iron or blow dry it, she'll probably look more. You know, but she doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So we are okay because she's not that dark. But concern is what is our child going to look like?
What's the bloodline going to look like coming out of her?
So the concern is not so much that you're having a mixed race child, but that the skin tone, the complexion
Mm-hmm.
is the problem, because you know you're going to be having a mixed race
Mm-hmm.
child in the family. You know that now. But your concern is the complexion.
Well, a mixed race where the dilution is serious in this situation.
It,
I
it
mean,
does, exactly, but it doesn't matter,
it
right?
doesn't matter to
And
them, and that's the anti-black part. That's the
exactly.
anti-black. It's not, and it racism, anti-blackness. A lot of them, there are overlapping overlapping. What's the word I'm looking for? My brain is going blank. But there's a lot of overlap between racism and anti-blackness. But
Mhm.
the fact that they're gonna and still look at this child now that he is born, now that he is here, and still regard them as a potential issue. That child has red hair. That child, I mean, I could see red hair peeking through. His
Well,
skin alabaster white.
I mean, the alabaster skin, but even with the alabaster skin,
He's
look,
not albino. There's a
but
difference between
no.
albinism and him.
By the time he grows up, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, let me tell you that we don't know what's going to happen by the time he grows up.
Mm,
So growing up in Sierra Leone in a village, we had a village next door where the students used to come to school to our village because our school was the closest in the surrounding area.
okay.
And we had redheads.
Hmm.
We had like pure redheads and light eyes. We had them in
Yeah,
light skin. So it's,
but this is different. When
there's
you looked
always a
at
problem.
them, they look black. This child looks
Yeah,
Caucasian.
but that's after they're older. This is the thing. When at the end of the day, he may just end up looking just like his father. He may end up just looking just like his daddy.
That's what I predict.
Or uh 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 um Megan's mom genes may come in there, either to him
Have you
or
seen her
or
mom? Her
his
mom is
sister.
a light-skinned woman who is likely, you know,
Maybe, maybe not. But look, all I'm saying is this.
we're about to have the same argument me and that lady had. Go ahead.
We don't know. We don't know when that child grows up because they change all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
kids change like crazy.
Sure.
Children change so
But
much.
they don't change races. Come on.
It's not about changing races, right?
This
Because
child, his
you're
features right
gonna
now.
no, you're gonna look the way you look.
Right.
But the reality is your features do change
Mm-hmm.
as you get older. And it's you
I
reach a
totally
certain
agree. Totally
right,
agree.
you reach a certain age and then it's done. Nothing else changes again.
Right.
But as you're growing, changes happen. And it's just a matter of seeing what it is. But for me, I don't even care about that.
Yeah.
My thing is, why even the reason why they're having a conversation is not because the child is mixed, because they already knew it was going to be mixed, is
Mm-hmm.
that he may be black. He may
Yeah.
look black. So that's the concern.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want they don't
But
want a black looking,
they
not
legitimately thought this child was going to come out looking like us. That was somehow a possibility.
they
And
were
that's what baffles me.
I'm not baffled. I'm not
I'm
baffled.
baffled. I'll be baffled for both of us.
I'm not baffled because fear of the other is so entrenched in people. They are so scared that the blood may be so strong it may pop out. And because the reality is, most people who are mixed, you can tell that they have a black person because
Yeah, oftentimes. Yeah.
because it's so dominant,
Yeah.
and so for them it's, oh my goodness, even though mind you he's only 25% or even less in the grand scheme of things, but
Right.
that's not how anti-blackness, racism, and fear works. It's not
Absolutely.
logical.
That's true. That's true.
There's no logic to
There's no
it.
lot. There you go. It's not logical. It's not logical. And because it's not logical, we have a situation where a child who has a whole lot of white genes swimming up in him and is expressing those whole lot of white genes is
He is.
still not allowed to carry the title that he was born into. They stripped him of that, you know?
That's on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank goodness Megan had a career before she got there, and
Yeah.
Harry's mama left him some money.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he'll be all right. I'm not, look, these people are doing a whole lot better than I am. So I'm not
Right.
worried about that. I'm talking about them because of
The larger discussion around
the larger discussion of anti-Blackness, and that no one, absolutely no one, is protected from that. It doesn't
yes.
matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter who you are.
Can we talk about that for a second? I wonder what was her mindset going into this? Did she think that she would be protected? That her appearance and her ability to flat iron and her lighter skin, was that going to protect her? I don't know what's in her head. I'm not her. I don't even know her to have conversations with her. But I'm really, really, really curious. What was her mindset going into this? Because there's no way someone volunteer for love, the headache she's gone through. She spoke about suicide. I don't think she knew this was going to be the outcome. But
Well,
did you think she
well,
was
let
going
me
something was going to be different for her?
well, let me say this, right? Because obviously none of us know Meghan Markle, and I'm not here to, because talk about what she was thinking or not thinking. However, she she lived in Canada, to what I know. She
Yep.
lived in Canada. The people she was around living in Canada were the hobnobbing people,
Yep.
the folks
The
up on
elite.
yeah, the elite.
Yeah.
Um, and she may have even had a friendship or relationship with one of Harry's cousins or whoever that he knew. So this has been her world
Yeah.
and her reality. So
Insulated from the reality.
so maybe, not that she didn't know anything about the other part, because she actually used to have a blog, and her blog talks about her racial identity and all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here nor there. But what if you are around certain people? I think to a certain extent, the intimidation factor may not be there
Mm-hmm.
because you've been there. Like
Yeah.
you've been around these people. She may, who knows, she may have gone to a cricket game or whatever with his cousin, and she's already sort of been around people, and so this was just another thing.
Yeah.
And she's got a man who says, I love you, I'm going to protect you, I'm going to, and so on and so forth, and who knows.
Yeah.
But
Who knows?
who knows, it
But
doesn't
this was her
matter.
inner circle. This was
Yeah,
her
this
circle.
is part of her inner circle in her life, and it doesn't matter. And for me, I don't judge anybody.
Yeah.
Everyone has a right to live their life
But
the
I'm
way they want.
curious. I'm curious what made her think that this wasn't going to be the outcome for her. I mean, Princess Diana herself was not protected from her fate in that family. I'm not a conspiracy theorist and saying anything about her death. I'm talking about the outcome of her marriage to Harry's dad. She couldn't get away from the toxicity. What made her think that she would be protected from it? I'm just curious.
I mean, there are others who have been there and they've been fine, right? Kate is there; she was fine.
Who?
What's the dad's wife's name? She
Camilla
was
Parker
fine.
Bowles.
What's her name?
Camilla Parker Bowles.
Yeah, I guess I don't. Yeah, the Prince Charles's wife's name. They're there. They're fine. There are others who have been married there. They're fine. So I mean, but for me, it's the bigger picture. It's the bigger conversation, and the fact that it reminded me of what LeBron said when his house was
Spray
spray
paint.
painted, and they were calling him all these names and da 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 da, the N word, and he's like, no matter how rich and famous you are, you're not exempt,
Nope.
and it's always going to be there. But like him, you don't let it keep you down, right?
This is true.
Them to
But you
shut
know
up
what?
and
On that point, I have one more issue with our allies. A lot of them thinking because of the money, because of being married into the royal family, that somehow she should have been happy with her station, happy that she was even accepted. Oprah Winfrey, why does she complain? She's a billionaire. She should be happy with her money. Colin Kaepernick, why are you complaining? Why are you making a big fuss? We've let you into the NBA, I'm sorry, the NFL to make all this money. LeBron James, you're making all this money. Why are you making a big fuss? It seems as though, they believe because Black folk have made it, quote unquote, and particularly in the field of entertainment, have made a lot of money, that somehow we should just shut up and enjoy our money, and not speak out on these issues, and just be happy with the position that we've been, quote unquote, given as opposed to earned. And I have a real issue with the discussion around that with regard to Meghan Markle too. Somehow she should just be happy she was allowed to marry into the family and allow their toxic behinds to treat her any which way they want, and to treat her babies any which way they want. And that discussion amongst them has really irked me, really irked me. But again, that's a discussion about anti-Blackness. That's a discussion about, allyship. What does it look like? What should it look like? Because a lot of folks who should have had, I won't name celebrity names because that's not what's important. But
Right.
a lot of people have surprised me in this discussion about Meghan Markle and what she's been going through, particularly now that this interview has come out with Oprah. I mean, there was somebody actually giving Oprah points on how to interview. Who the hell are you to tell Oprah how she should interview? But that's just
Wow.
the audacity of some people.
Wow. Okay.
And my usual tangent, whatever.
I know it's okay. It's
Mm.
okay. It's okay. It's a safe space.
Yeah.
Have conversation. So we wanted to just touch on that topic. And we want to thank you for listening to that. And as usual, we want to end on a good note. And I'll hand it over to JoJo.
So I'm gonna ask you a different question this week. I probably should have prepped you for this so that you can
Okay.
be ready with your answer. But we are approaching more and more people being allowed to get the vaccine. And full disclosure, I got my first shot yesterday, and I'm feeling great. So far, so good. But once you get your shots, you have your maybe your Johnson and Johnson 1 shot or your 2 shots from Moderna or Pfizer. What is the first thing you're gonna do when you're fully vaccinated?
First thing. Oh my goodness.
And it can't be something you've already been doing. It's got to be something outside the house. Outside the house.
Yeah, definitely outside the house, girl. We've talked about going dancing every night.
Oh gosh.
We've talked about going dancing every night. It's like, what? There's a party? Let's go. Even if we don't know the people. Hey, enjoy.
But do it with your mask though, because I'm still gonna be wearing a mask for the foreseeable future.
I know. You know how I love hugs. Hug my people. I haven't hugged my people in over a year. I haven't hugged my people, all of you, my people I haven't hugged. And it's I miss that. I miss that a lot. I miss the human contact. I love my man. It's not about that. But I really miss that human contact. The hugging and the talking and just the being. The joy of looking at each other in the eye, really looking at each other in the eye, not in the screen eye.
Yeah, it's different, right? It's really different.
But really the eye, and just like communicating with your eyes, and just, yeah.
That human connection kind of has not been there for, I mean, we were just looking at the news earlier, and this week is the anniversary of Florida shutting down. If it's not this one, actually March 16th is the Monday that we shut down because it was during elections, during the primaries, and a lot of folks just decided I'm not going to bother. But this was the week that states began shutting down all across the country, and lines began to form, particularly for toilet paper. Remember that? Remember how crazy that was? Oh my goodness gracious.
What are you going to do?
I am going to get a manicure, a pedicure, and my eyebrows done. Because let me tell y'all, you see these eyebrows? These were created by Zoom. This is a little secret. Zoom eyebrows are the business. I went into the little filter and Zoom put these eyebrows on, not me. So I'm going to get my eyebrows fixed. I'm going to get my manicure, pedicure. Hopefully they will not be blue because of the dye that I put in my hair. And I'm going to get a trim. I'm going to do all of that in one day. It's going to be a full-on beauty session
Look
because
at
a
you.
girl needs it.
Look at you.
Really, really needs it.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. And if you know what you're going to do, first thing, send us a message. Put it on the thing. So JoJo or we're going to put a quick message on there. What are you going to do? We should put that on there.
Yes.
And respond to that if you wish. It'll be fun. Let's see what people are going to be doing. First, you're going to do after you are vaccinated, and people are mostly vaccinated, despite the fact that we'll still be wearing a mask for a while, right? So everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a great conversation, and hopefully you got something out of it. And please join us next time, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Again, if you think a better time was, will have you more engaged, please let us know, because we're here to serve you and engage with you. Okay. And JoJo, where can people find us?
All over the internet. Every week I post that we're on Twitter, diaspora_voices. On Instagram, we're at Black Diaspora Voices. We're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where if you're not able to watch us here, you can watch us over there. Again, Black Diaspora Voices. And soon we'll be putting all of our lives on a podcast. So if you're in your car, you're at work and you want to just throw it into your headphones, you'll be able to do that soon. And that'll be Black Diaspora Voices Podcast.com. But as usual, every week I post our social media handles. You can find us everywhere on the web. And we thank you so much for joining and liking, subscribing, and following us everywhere that we are.
And have a good night and all the blessings. And stay protected.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Do the distancing. And we'll see you again on Wednesday. And
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.